Alright folks, today we're talking Moza Air 2 and how to get super smooth footage with any gimbal. So let's take a look at the footage that I shot with this gimbal and let me show you what I did to make it this smooth, so that you can go back and take your gimbal and get the same kind of footage. So here we go. Alright, so that's the footage shot on the Moza Air 2, and as you can see, it's buttery smooth. But if you've been following this channel, you might say, hey Pete, this footage seems familiar, and you're correct. I shot similar footage with the Gimbal 2 when that launched at the exact same location. So it's not the same footage, but it's similar to that, and it's shot on the Moza Air. And the reason why I went to that location is because I had some issues with this gimbal to start with some of the first footage that I shot. There was some swaying and some jitters in the footage that I did not like. So I went back to that location so that I could shoot similar footage, and then I could compare it one by one to the Gimbal 2, which I know was buttery smooth straight out of the camera. Alright, so let's talk about it and what I did to get this kind of footage, because it was a bit hard with this gimbal actually. I had to pull all the strings and all the knowledge that I had learned over the years of shooting on a gimbal. It was not straight out of the box, this one. So I had to use all the movements, all the techniques, smooth walking, everything I know to get this footage. And if you're struggling with your gimbal, this is what I teach in the Gimbal Academy. So if you aren't getting the footage that you want out of your gimbal, you should consider the Gimbal Academy. The link will be down in the description if you want to check it out. How did we get this smooth footage? Yes, of course, there's a lot of things going into this. First of all, when I got this gimbal straight out of the box, it actually felt very, very smooth. So it looks promising right out of the box. But as you see, if I press it here, you can see I can easily tilt the motor. And that's where that swaying came from, because the motors aren't that strong actually. It can actually take a payload of 4.2 kilos, they say, but the reverb of the motors is, I'm not satisfied with that actually. So there are some things that I need to work with on this gimbal. So I adjusted the settings for my needs. I bumped up the motors as much as I could on this gimbal, so it was nearly as perfect as I could get it. And then I went back to this location to shoot this footage because I knew that I had some that was great from there. So the important thing is that you get to know the gimbal, you get to know where the buttons are, get to know where the modes are, so you won't finagle around with that once you're on a location. So get to know the gimbal, adjust the settings, and then practice some of the moves that you want to do on that shoot. I know exactly what I wanted to do, so it was pretty easy for me to just hone in on that. Super smooth walk, super smooth movements, and that helped with the stability. But I had to be very focused on this shoot. And as you can see in the footage, this is the raw footage. There's some small jitters in some of it, and all I did in the post is just stabilize the footage and looks buttery smooth. It's not cheating to do that, it's because it's the end result that comes out of your footage that matters in the end. So if you aren't getting that buttery smooth footage, then just stabilize it in post, and most times it'll be really good. But if it's really jittery, then the post stabilization aren't always that good. So of course, the better the footage you can get straight out of the gimbal, the better it is. So practice the moves, practice the techniques so that you can get the best amount of footage straight out of camera. All right, that's kind of how you can go about getting smooth footage with any gimbal. So let's take a look at the Moza Air 2, which was sent to me by Moza to review, and some of the things that I like about it and some of the things that I don't like about it. It is a big gimbal. It weighs 2.2 kilo, and with the side handle on that I added here, it's 2.6 kilos. So it's not a small gimbal, and it's pretty tall. It's the same size as the Crane 2S. And the issue with these kind of gimbals is that I cannot pack it down into a backpack. So it actually comes with this carrying case here, which is pretty nice, looks pretty sleek, and you can pack it into that case if you want to take it with you. But put it into any backpack will be a problem. It couldn't fit into any of my bags, so I had to bring it along on the side. So that right there is actually a deal breaker for me, because with the gimbals nowadays, most of those goes straight into your backpack. But the Crane 2S, the Crane 3S, the Crane 3 Lab, those bigger gimbals don't go in a backpack, and that's why I'm not using it that much anymore. But let's take a look at the gimbal here. You can see there's a big grip here where the battery is. It's a bit slippery. I'd like to have some more rubber down here so it wasn't that slippery. I would hold it down here, then I can reach this trigger. So I was actually holding way up here so I can reach the trigger, so I could put it into follow mode right there. And I could also reach the follow focus wheel. It's a bit hard to reach. It's not ideal, I would say. And I have this little thing here which I would never use actually. The gimbal to me feels a bit outdated. With all the new gimbals that has come out this year, this one feels old. The interface is old, and the way that you change the menu is some getting used to, because if you want to change the modes, you will have to know what button to press here. So if you want to go into lock mode, you can see actually the tilt motor is up here, the roll motor is the side, and the pan motor is down. So if I double press, it goes into follow mode and it stays there. So that's how you change the modes, and once you get used to it, it's not a problem. It actually works very well, but I had to actually go in and look in the manual to see how I change the modes. And normally you don't have to do that, but with this particular gimbal I just had to do that. But once you get to it, it's actually pretty easy. The joystick is here, it works fine. So yeah, that's some of the things that I really think is some of the downsides of this gimbal. It has locks. It's not the best locks, I would say. It's good that they're there when you're going to balance it, because that makes it much easier, but the locks itself wasn't perfect. I actually had to put a strap on it to make sure that it stayed there when I was walking around with it. And so not ideal, but they're there. Mounting options, you got some mounting options on the side. You have a big rosette here in the front where you can mount something as well. That's pretty nice. I like that. They have their own handle actually. I didn't know that. I just saw that on the internet. But I'm using this side handle right here, which I feel is mandatory if you have a gimbal, to get a dual handle grip. And that also is some of the things that made me capture this smooth footage, because you will get better stability by using two hands and your whole body to move. It has two base plates up here, so you can actually just take it off, and then you can take this one off only. See, there we go. And then you have this Manfrotto style plate, and it just goes in here, locks in there, and it locks. So that's pretty easy actually. But I have my own quick release plate set up to there, which works fine. And as you can see, we have the S1H on the gimbal right here, and it fits perfectly. We still got some space on the side, and we got space here. So you can actually put a bigger camera on, and as they say, it would take 4.2 kilos. But the issue here with the motor not being that strong, the roll motor, I don't know why it's so sway, and that's why I got that sway footage in the start. But once you got to work with it, once you got to learn how to use it, it works fine. There's one particular thing that they have done which is really, really good. In the bottom of the Moza Air 2, where I always put my quick release plate, there are two screw holes in this gimbal. That means that this will not slide around. I have this problem with some other gimbals that they tend to get loose because it can turn around. But they have put 2 screw holes, which is perfect because this will stay in place always. So a big thumbs up that they have done that. Let's put it back. There we go. You can see if we lock it, you can see the locks, it still feels a bit wiggly when you lock it. So a pretty weird way to lock this gimbal. Let's talk price of this gimbal. $499. For me, I would say a bit too expensive actually, because there's a lot of other gimbals you can get for around that price point. The Crane 2S, which is the same size and similar gimbal like this, it's $399, so $100 less than this one. You could also go for the Weebill S, or the Weebill 2. The Weebill 2 is $549, and the RS-C2 is $499. So it's similar price to many of the other gimbals, but I would have liked to see this be a bit cheaper actually. But let's see if they're coming out with a new gimbal. Yeah, they should redesign some of the things and also make these motors a bit more sturdy than they're good actually. Alright folks, that is it. If you want to see more gimbal videos, I'll link some of them down here. And of course, if this is the first time you're here, remember to subscribe if you want to learn more about filmmaking in motion. And lastly, if you want to join the Academy, the link is in the description, and I hope to see you in there. See you next time. Bye.